Want to say welcome and let folks know we're letting people in from the waiting room right now, and we're just going to give it a few minutes before we get started.
There's Louise.
And don't forget to mute. Hi, Paul. Hi, Diane.
Hi. I'll mute.
Michelle, can you see me on there? Am I there?
Oh, I hear you, Tom. Welcome. I see you.
Okay, a little thumbnail up in the corner. Okay.
Yep. Nice to see you. We're just letting folks in from the waiting room. We've got quite a few participants, which is wonderful and very exciting. So as folks are entering, just ask you to give a wave, maybe put your phone, your video on mute, and then we'll get started here very shortly.
Unmute, there we go. Hi there.
Hi.
Hi, Diane and Paul and Tom.
Karen. We're just letting folks in from the waiting room. And then I'm waiting for Carrie, our organizer, to give me the thumbs up to get started, and we'll start recording and go live. We've got lots of guests and we're still letting folks in, which is wonderful. It's going to be a great night.
70 so far. 71, 72.
Wow.
I don't know if you can hear me. This is Bonnie Murphy.
Hi, Bonnie. Welcome. We hear you.
I don't have my picture isn't on there. I'm not sure why.
It comes and goes.
Okay. I'll just wait for it to come and go.
Hi, Michelle. This is Nelson.
Hi, Nelson. Nice to see you.
If Bonnie, there down there where mute is, there's a video. If you click that, your picture will come up. Mine did.
Where it says start video?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Lower left corner. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, Bob. Thanks for the
Oh,
tips.
there it is.
Yay.
It does work, Bob, you see? We just trust, right? How are you, Nelson? I haven't seen you for a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. Pretty good. As I say, all things considered, I'm pretty good.
Oh, gosh, I know.
But another time, another place.
Bonnie, I'm going to see if the kids will come give you a wave. I know they miss you.
Oh, gosh, I miss them too. It's so weird, isn't it?
Yep.
I keep looking for dinosaur things, but they're not showing up.
Thank you, Bonnie. I needed that.
Don't you think people's garages and sock drawers are a lot more organized now than they've ever been?
Yes, absolutely.
Joe would know.
Not at my house, Joe. It is pure chaos. 20.
You have 3 little kids, that's why.
Hey, Michelle, how are you from Tennessee?
Hey, Kent. Nice. Good to see you. We're doing well.
Hey here.
Hey, Ken, I'm down here in the Ozarks,
Oh, whereabouts in the Ozarks?
just north of the Missouri line and outside of Branson.
Oh, go by.
Branson, Missouri? Oh, wow. You need to be in Vegas.
Oh, yeah, right. I'm going to go see my mom down in Arkansas day after tomorrow, though.
Oh, that'll be nice.
Yeah.
Say Dolly when you're in that neck of the woods. She comes over
Oh,
there.
she's around. Oh, okay. Muting.
I'm waiting on a thumbs up from Carrie for when we should get started. What do you say, Carrie?
Give me just a minute, Michelle. I'm having a hard time getting us live on Facebook. So if you'll give me just a moment, I'm hoping I've restarted. So let's see if it catches up.
Maybe before we start, we could just all raise a glass to good company tonight. Cheers.
Go ahead.
Here, 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 here.
Go get one, I guess.
You should. If you don't have something, maybe now is a good time to do that.
I think I will.
It's-
Thanks.
It's 6 o'clock on the East Coast.
That means it's 5 o'clock somewhere, right?
For sure.
Yeah, don't you just want to say hi to everyone here? It's been so long since we've seen each other, man.
How you doing,
Miss
Brother
you.
Joe?
Yeah, doing good. Muting now.
It's a bit of an odd way to gather, but I'm really grateful that we're doing it and really grateful for everyone that's joining us today. And it is thanks to our board that really said, hey, we really need to figure out this Zoom thing. Here we are.
There are probably a lot of people that are Zoom weary on this call,
Yeah, probably.
but not when we're seeing each other. No.
There you go. Hey, Joe Dorn, why don't you have the buffalo in your background today? Or you should flash that just so we can all have a laugh. Oh, you're on mute.
I'll try to find that for you, Wendy.
Yeah, that cracked me up. Hi, Mom, by the way.
Michelle, I can't believe how quiet the kids are.
Oh, hi.
Keep your fingers crossed.
Can you hear the toys?
I'm sure
Hi,
there's
Mom
some-
and Dad. They're outside right now. I think we're going to go ahead and get started. It sounds like I'm getting texts that we're still kind of messing around with Facebook Live, but we're recording the call and we've got a great group of folks here. So we will go live on Facebook when we go live on Facebook. And I'm just going to go ahead and get us started. So I want to thank you all for joining us to help celebrate our 30th year. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Michelle Ubaraga. My pronouns are she, her, and I have served as PCEC's executive director since 2015. And I'm joined today with your co-host for the evening with board co-chair Wendy Riley. You want to wave, Wendy? So as you know, this is our annual membership gathering, which has taken many forms over the years, from backyard potlucks. I've seen pictures of picnics at Sacagawea. We've barbecued by the river. And of course, we'd have lovely dinners at Chico. And now our very first ever virtual happy hour. Thank you so much for joining. Cheers. So Park County Environmental Council has been working with the people of Park County, everyone here, to safeguard our communities, the Yellowstone River, our wild public lands, and the animals that inhabit them for over 30 years. We do that through grassroots advocacy and education. We want to thank everybody here for what you've done to help build this organization and grow it from a handful of concerned citizens back in 1990, 1989 to this robust organization with more than 600 members and 2,500 supporters that come together to speak up for this place. It's really incredible. Throughout today's program, we hope you see a theme that emerges, and that is our love of this land and our commitment to it. We live in an incredible place with striking mountain ranges and valleys that are home to native grasses, rich soils teeming with life, wild rivers, grizzly bears, field mice, wolverines, hummingbirds, migrating herds of elk, mule deer, and pronghorn, bison that once freely roamed, wild open lands, and more. Park County is the traditional homeland to the Apsaloka, or the Crow tribe, and their ancestors. For the Crow and other indigenous nations across the region, like Northern Yellowstone's Tukuteka, a band of the Shoshone tribe, this area continues to be culturally and spiritually significant. Europeans who arrived in the 19th century were also drawn to the beauty and bounty that this land offers. So what is Park County today has a long tradition of human habitation, of people who have loved, cherished, and stewarded this place. And we are committed to working together to honor that legacy and this place for future generations. So we're joined here today by some incredible guest speakers and PCEC collaborators. We have Dr. Shane Doyle, John Salazar, Daniel Anderson, and Commissioner Melissa Newts, who are our guest speakers tonight. We've scheduled an hour and a half, and we are committed to stopping at 5:30 because we have a subsequent Livingston Growth Policy meeting that many of us need to jump to right when we're done here, speaking of Zoom fatigue. But in addition to all of our wonderful speakers, we have some business to attend to. So we'll kind of be bouncing back between Wendy and I in the office this evening. But to kind of kick off, I'm going to pass it over to Wendy.
Hi, everyone. It's my pleasure to join Michelle in hosting today's call. I'm so honored to serve as co-chair of the PCEC board in partnership with Lucinda Reinold. We're joined by an awesome set of board members whose names you see on the slide and whom I deeply appreciate for their service. And we're grateful to the board members who have served over the past 30 years. After that lovely intro by Michelle, the business items fall to me, which I'll try to keep brief. This is, after all, our annual membership meeting, and our bylaws have a few requirements. One is to ask our members to ratify the board members by voting. And you may have seen Michelle sent an email to members on Monday with a link to the voting. And if you're a member and haven't already voted, please click on that link in that email and vote. And I think we're putting the link in the chat window as well. Also, later, I'll do a quick overview of our budget. But speaking of financials, one of the purposes of this meeting is to launch our year-end fundraising campaign. Our goal is to raise $50,000 from now through the end of the year. We have some various generous donors who will match the first $10,000 raised within the next 24 hours. So you can click on the donation link that will provide you periodically in the chat window, or you can make a pledge in the chat and donate later. If you say in the chat that you want to pledge, we'll follow up in an email and provide you the link. But please keep in mind that the match expires by end of day tomorrow. Before introducing our first speaker, I also wanted to give you a few pointers about Zoom. Some people are very experienced now, which we've just alluded to with Zoom, but others are less experienced with Zoom. And so first, please make sure that you're muted as we begin. And for most viewers, you would move your cursor to the bottom of your screen and you'll see the mute button in the lower left corner. Just give it a click if it's not muted already. It should have a red line through it. For a better view of just our speakers, you can change your screen view to speaker view by using the button in the upper right corner of your screen. Also, feel free to make comments in the chat window, and you go to the bottom of the screen to get to chat, to click on chat, along with pledging in the chat window. But we don't expect to have time for Q&A. What we plan to do is we're covering a lot of really great content to host, and we will host future community conversations to continue that content. And so we're happy to have feedback from you in the chat window if you'd like to hear more on any particular subject. We're also recording this call. So let me ask Michelle to introduce our first speaker, and we'll get to some other business items later. Take it away, Michelle.
Thank you, Wendy. We got the kids coming in the background. But I'm so pleased to introduce our keynote speaker tonight, Dr. Shane Doyle. Dr. Shane Doyle is a member of the Apsaloka Nation, and he grew up in Crow Agency. Dr. Doyle earned his doctorate in education from Montana State University. He's an educator, an environmental advocate, a research scientist, a film producer, and a performing artist. He was intimately involved in the interpretation of the Clovis era child at the Anzac site here in Park County. Now based in Bozeman, Dr. Doyle is involved in curriculum design for groups like Montana Wilderness Association, the U.S. Forest Service, and the Apsaloka Nation. Interesting to Park County residents, Shane is also working as a co-PI on a National Science Foundation funded research project studying ancient ice patches in the Beartooth Plateau. I thought that was very cool. Dr. Doyle's great-grandparents were married in the shadow of the Crazy Mountains, and his connection to this landscape is deep. If you haven't seen it, we highly recommend the film Dr. Doyle recently helped create, Awahawa Pia, which shares the Indigenous perspective on the Crazy Mountains and the importance of protecting this sacred landscape. Not sure I pronounced that right, Dr. Doyle, you'll have to correct me there.
Close enough.
Okay, great. Dr. Doyle works tirelessly on behalf of Wild Places, and we have had the extreme pleasure and joy of getting to know him through our work on the collaborative efforts in the Crazy Mountains. With that, I will pass it over to Dr. Shane Doyle. Thanks so much for being here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. Wow, it's a great honor to be able to join everyone tonight and just to share a little bit about, why I love this place so much. And, I see there's a great turnout, so that's a really good feeling to be able to be connected with everyone this evening. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here and share my screen. Let's see here. Okay. Okay, I wanted to speak about this place from a cultural standpoint. I like to refer to it as medicine wheel country. And you can see from the map up above there on the right-hand side that the whole area going up into Canada there has these medicine wheel structures all around it. And there's one, the famous one, of course, is in the Bighorn Mountains, and there's a photo of it just beneath the map. And, I think the heart of this whole country here is really around the headwaters of the Yellowstone River, right around Livingston and Park County. And that's kind of a little bit what I'm going to talk about today. I'm glad you brought up, Michelle, the ancient ice patches. The oldest ever artifact ever taken from an ice patch, just up until a few years ago, was taken from the Beartooth Plateau. It was a atlatl dart that's over 10,000 years old. So there's a lot of ancient history here, and that's part of the reason why I like it. But I came up with a top 10 list for those of you who still remember David Letterman. I was telling someone, I think I'm showing my age here, kind of grew up with David Letterman. I like Stephen Colbert too. Okay, so first of all, it's the perfect place, and there was a great quote about the place that was published actually back in the 1830s in Harper's Weekly and from Washington Irving, and he took it from the diary or the writings of a fur trapper trader that was out here named Robert Campbell. And store belly. And he says that basically, he says, while you're in, around the headwaters of the Yellowstone River, this area here, you're in the perfect place. And everywhere you go from here, it's worse. You can head up north but it's too cold up there all the time. You know, the winters last a long time, and you know, it's kind of too hard to enjoy the summer very long. Then you go down south and it's too warm, you know, and people get sick from drinking the warm water down there, and it's just not a good place to be. By the way, if you hear some kids, I've got some kids too, so I'm hopefully not too loud. He said, you know, you can go to the west and it's not too bad over there, but everybody eats fish all the time. And so, you know, we don't really like that kind of food, and we would rather eat bison. And then he said, you know, you could go far to the east and it's not that bad over there either, but the water is warm and it's muddy. You know, it's not like here in the headwaters where it's crystal clear and cold and, you know, fresh, refreshing when we drink it. And then he kind of goes on and lists all the other reasons why this area that we live in is really the perfect place. And so I think that's probably the number one reason why I love this area, Park County. It's the perfect place, and it has everything in it. You know, it has the mountains, it has the plains, it has some lakes, it has rivers, just a lot of different microclimates. Second reason why I like this place is that it's my home. And this is a photo of my great-great-grandparents. This photo was taken along the Yellowstone River, just over by Columbus. Again, as Michelle mentioned, they were married at Fort Parker, just over by Livingston there, about 10 miles east of Livingston. They were married back in 1872. And I believe at the time, she was 16 years old, or 17, I believe. And you can see my great-grandmother standing behind her. And so just a pretty awesome historic photograph there. And then, of course, the map of the Crow Country right next to it has an outline of the original Crow Indian Reservation, and then the second one, from the 1868 treaty. And so not one, but two treaties, pretty much all of Park County was within the Crow Indian Reservation. And it wasn't until I believe 1874 that the agency moved over towards Columbus. I like the area, Park County and the headwaters area there, because it's beautiful. And I think Plinniku said that too, when a biographer asked him about his country. He said, you know, I live in a beautiful place. And people are going to want to come here, and they're going to want to have this land. You know, it's so beautiful. And that's all come to pass, I think, when we look at Bozeman, of course, and even the landowners around the Crazy Mountains. There's a lot of very wealthy people who see the beauty here and want to be able to immerse themselves in that beauty. We can climb up to the top of the mountains here. We can look back down at the Great Plains. We can go down to the Great Plains and the river valleys and look back up to the mountains. And so we can see all those things here in this landscape. And I think that's just so unique. You just don't see that in other places in the nation or even the world. I think there's a transcendent culture here. There was a transcendent culture because people had no domestic animals. They had to walk everywhere, and they had to move camp seasonally. So they would constantly cross paths with one another, people who they didn't share the common language with. And so they developed a universal language to communicate and basically cross all linguistic boundaries so that they could share with one another. And I think that that's a transcendent approach to living with your neighbors, overcoming any kind of barrier and able so that you can sit down with one another and teach one another and listen and share. And so I'm very proud of that, and I'm very happy to say that you know, it comes from this area, and you can see the different arrows, the different culture and linguistic groups that have come here to the Great Plains and to Livingston area. Oops, that was not supposed to be in there. I like it because of the ancient history. I love this place because of the incredible degree to which it takes us back into time. So thinking about the Anzac Clovis child burial, which is near Wilsaw, that's a 12,600-year-old burial. the oldest in the Western Hemisphere. And so just to be able to say that pretty much all Native Americans in North and South America can trace their lineage back to Livingston, I think that's pretty important. And it's another reason why I think it's a very special place. You know, there was a ceremonial way of life that was developed here for a very long time. People didn't have much material wealth, and so they sought to have spiritual wealth. And, you know, they lived off the land in a light way and learned to respect one another from a spiritual perspective. Love this place because there's still wild things here, animals that we know of course, all of the other natural climate phenomenon that's pretty wild here, like the wind, for example, where the spirits move camp. You know, I like that. The wind is always bringing us new good things. You know, fresh air, moving out the old air and bringing in fresh stuff. And when the temperature changes, it's good, you know. That's what they tell us back home. And you can see that, you know, it's kind of dangerous for high profile vehicles. Sorry if you hear the screaming in the background there. How about this photograph? So this is, you know, where the sacred tobacco is. They say that the Crow Indians came to this area because of the sacred tobacco plant that was seen twinkling on the mountains like stars. And so, you know, the Crow people can trace their tie to this land, to the sacred tobacco, which grew in the mountains, which, by the way, they didn't smoke it or use it in any way. They just planted it ceremonially. And finally, this is where they face the storm. The bison and the other animals here learn how to, you know, face into the storm, to endure it, to persevere, and not turn their backs on it. And so I think that's it. I think I used up my time. Let me go ahead and stop my share.
Thank you so much, Dr. Doyle.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. It was awesome. I can't wait to hear what Daniel has to say, and also Melissa.
Okay. Well, actually, next up, we're passing it over to John Salazar, and I'm going to invite our conservation director, Erica Lighthizer, to go ahead and introduce John.
Hi, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Erica Lighthizer. I'm the Deputy Director here at Park County Environmental Council. Today, I have the distinct honor of introducing John Salazar, who I've had the pleasure and opportunity to get to know over the last few years in our work in the Crazy Mountains. John Salazar has been a small business owner in Livingston for the past 26 years. He and his wife, Lara, moved to Livingston in 1994 and raised their two sons here, both of whom still live and work here in our community. John's wife, Lara, works for Bighorn Health in Hardin. Their entire family is amazing, and they are tremendous assets to this community. I really admire and look up to John. He deeply values family and community. He is so willing to volunteer his time, to show up, to lend a hand, or even cook a meal to bring people together. He serves on many boards, including the Montana Wildlife Federation and now the National Wildlife Federation Board of Directors. John also does a ton for youth in our community, coaching baseball, soccer, and teaching hunter education. As you might guess, he's an avid outdoorsman and enjoys spending as much of his free time as possible with his family out hunting, fishing, hiking, backpacking, and exploring public lands. In fact, I think he was out hunting this morning and may have harvested a white-tailed deer. A few years ago, quick story, a few years ago, John was invited to participate in the Crazy Mountain Working Group. Some of the members of the group were a little wary of someone affiliated with Montana Wildlife Federation, but John, he showed up with so much grace, he listened, and he quickly earned trust. I'll never forget seeing one conversation between John and one of the more reticent members of the group. This fellow, he rarely said a whole lot. And after sitting next to John for a few minutes, John had him laughing, and they were talking about fishing as if they were old fishing buddies. He later invited all the members of the working group to his home for a wild game dinner. He's been really instrumental in building bridges between landowners and sportsmen, and he's taken the time to understand the perspectives and the challenges that all the groups face. John is a really close ally and a strategist on our efforts in the Crazies, and I can't thank him enough for being here tonight. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Erica. Thanks everybody, and thanks. It's been an honor. It's an honor to be here and to speak with this big group of people. Shane, you're amazing. Sorry I have to follow you, but I have to. So yes, I've lived here in Livingston for 26 years. Montana Wildlife Federation, I've been on that board for 4 years, and the last few months on the National Wildlife Federation board. Taught hunter's education, both bow hunter and rifle hunter, for 11 years. And I've been a member of the Crazy Mountain Working Group for a couple of years or so. That's been a real pleasure. First of all, Erica, you're amazing. You're such a great representative for this community, and so is, and Hart County Environmental Council as well. I mean, you guys really do a great job in making sure that everything you do is a collaborative effort of our community. And, it's not about what you can do, but what we can all do together. And I think that's a really important message for our community. The working group is made up of ranchers and local environmental groups and involved citizens and many other people getting together and having a conversation at the table. And that conversation we've had at the table for the last few years has really set an example of how all things can get done in this country, okay, whether here or somewhere else. It's just a beautiful thing. Hart County Environmental Council, again, the thing that I want to stress to everyone here and listening is they want you as a community to come and join us and talk about how you want your community to be. One of the things that we're seeing now is, as everyone here knows, our community is growing, and it's growing rapidly. But I think that with community involvement, we can all make a big difference in how it happens. And so I would hope that people would get involved and help Hart County Environmental Council get the funding we need to keep this thing moving forward and do the great things for our community. We're just seeing such large growth now. And so it's just, I know for people that grew up here, even when I moved here, it was kind of shocking. Am I still there? Still there?
We hear you.
Okay, sorry. So yeah, no problem. So, and so I've been here since Lara and myself, we moved here in '94, pregnant with our oldest boy, and moved into this small community. And when you move into a community like Livingston, we rolled into town, and the first thing you see is the John Deere dealership and the railroad tracks. And I thought, oh boy, what did I just do? But when I got involved in the community, and my kids were born here, and we got involved in all the sports that you can coach, you can volunteer some time, you can spend that sort of time taking care of your community and growing with it. We learned what a beautiful community it is, and it really is an amazing place. So I just wanted to say thank you, and please help support PCC and their efforts in making our community as great as it can be. So thank you.
Thank you, John, for all that you're doing on the Crazy Mountain work. I know it hasn't been easy collaborating with a lot of people who have very different points of view, and we just so value what you're doing there, and the progress you guys are making is just incredible. So earlier I talked about how this meeting launches our year-end fundraising appeal. What I didn't share with you yet is what you get for your donation. So If you give $50, you receive a calendar which showcases the beautiful photography of our world-renowned board member, Tom Murphy. $50 also happens to be the suggested amount to give to become a member of PCEC. Also, if you give $100, you receive a cool PCEC mug and the calendar. So I'd like to toss it over to our PCEC office where we have Robin and Carrie who can provide an update on how we're doing so far. Robin is our operations director and Carrie supports us in a number of ways as a contractor. What do you have to tell us, Robin, Carrie?
Hi, everybody. We're so excited that you're here. We are going to show you this beautiful, let me see, are we seeing it okay?
Yes, well,
a beautiful calendar.
Calendar a little bit, it has sort of the light shine.
Yeah, we're not seeing what you guys are seeing yet.
Oh,
and we have a mug.
There you go. Okay, the calendar and the mug.
And so far, we're at $300. We'll repost the link in the chat box.
Okay, thank you guys.
I got my red pen ready, everyone.
Okay, awesome. So Michelle, you're next.
Okay, so I got a little distracted by that really fun shot to the office, and Luca, my oldest, ran over. He's been really eyeing those Hydro Flask mugs with the sticker. So he went to get a credit card to make a donation.
Awesome.
All right, so we're gonna go back to our speakers, and I'd like to invite our Conservation Director, Max Yortzberg, to introduce our next speaker. Take it away, Max.
Hey, hi everyone. I wish I had like maybe 5 computer screens so I could see you all at once instead of my one little laptop screen, but I hope you're all well, and this is as good a way to get together during these times as we can ask for, I think. So it's my honor to introduce our next speaker, Daniel Anderson. For those of you who don't know Daniel, he's a 3rd-generation Montanan raised in Tom Minor Basin, a location that shaped his worldview and commitment to land stewardship and inspiring him to address challenges and solutions to complex environmental and social issues in the American West. In 2017, Daniel founded the Common Ground Project, a nonprofit organization that's internationally recognized as a space where diverse groups have an opportunity to foster deeper connections with one another and the natural world, create community through collaboration, and encourage healing for people in the environment. Daniel is currently leading a collaborative process with PCEC and a few other area nonprofit organizations. Those are the National Parks Conservation Association, the Center for Large Landscape Conservation, and the Greater Yellowstone Coalition, as well as with local landowners and state and federal agencies to address and resolve a very important issue of wildlife vehicle conflict along Highway 89 in the Paradise Valley and the Gardner Basin. As we all know, there's an abundance of wildlife that like to move through the valley, and there's also an abundance of people that like to travel 89 through the valley as well. And it just, they come into contact, I guess, all together all too often. I've had the pleasure and the honor in the last year to not only work with Daniel, but to build a friendship with him as well. His work is inspiring, and his leadership with this partnership is also inspiring. He has a natural way of bringing people together, just as he did a year ago when he started reaching out to all of us in this partnership to join him in this effort to address the wildlife issues in Highway 89. And so in that time, we have learned a lot and done a lot of work, which he'll speak of in the creation of what we're calling the Upper Yellowstone Safe Passage Partnership. So with that, I'll turn it over to Daniel, and he can tell you more.
Well, please nod if you can hear me, and if you can't hear me, then okay, I see a thumbs up. Well, thanks, Max. That was a really nice introduction. It's definitely an honor to be a part of this community and to be able to share with all of you what we've been up to. Even though it's such a strange, for me, such a strange world we live in here. This is the largest Brady Bunch gathering I think I've participated in so far, and so sort of wading through new waters for me here. But I'm gonna share my screen and work through a presentation as well. I'll try to make it pretty short and sweet here. So as Max said, we have a group that we're calling the Upper Yellowstone Safe Passage Partnership. And in a nutshell, it's all about envisioning a safer place for people and wildlife, specifically with regard to Highway 89. And here we go. I'm going to give just a quick introduction to this issue and apologize if a lot of you know these details. I think it's worth grounding in the sort of the breadth of how big of an issue this really is for us in Paradise Valley and in the Gardner Basin. As we all know, there's a lot of people who travel this corridor. We see roughly 1 million visitors per year, most of them, of course, through the tourism economy. And of course, a lot of us, though, however, live here, work here, play here, and travel Highway 89 from Livingston to Gardner and into the park quite a bit. 1 in 2 accidents on this highway are wildlife related. And within a 10-year period, just recently, we've tallied up almost 1,600 vehicle wildlife collisions. And that, as a result, is a lot of money financially. Most of that, of course, is a burden to the person who's driving the vehicle. However, there's a lot of different costs that go into highway cleanup and the agencies and all that too. So there's quite a bit, of intensity with regard to how big this issue is. The wildlife, as Shane had talked about too, we have an incredibly diverse and dynamic wildlife community here, which is part of the reason I think why we all love this place so much. And the wildlife that we strike on this highway, deer, elk, moose, bison, bighorn sheep, pronghorn, black bear, and my friends and neighbors up in Tom Minor Basin are soon to be sharing the grizzly bears that we have up here with the valley. And unfortunately, we're going to probably see more grizzly bears traveling through the highway corridor and likely to be struck by vehicles. And over the last year almost, what we've learned in terms of how big this issue is and how broad it is comes down to 3 primary issues. That's human safety, wildlife mortality, and then the economic impact therein. And just as a quick kind of reference point, if you can see my cursor on the bottom right side of the screen, it costs about $8,000 to strike a deer and about $25,000 to strike an elk. So when we put that into perspective, it definitely makes it challenging to think about where the highway is now, and then potentially also what we could do to change that. The partnership itself, who we are, I just want to say there's a lot more people who are part of this partnership than are on the screen right now. But the folks who have committed hours and hours of Zoom time and a lot of financial backing as well, and resources and knowledge, tip my hat to Max and Michelle with Park County Environmental Council, Liz with Center for Large Landscape Conservation, Brooke with Greater Yellowstone Coalition, Dan Bailey with National Parks Conservation Association. We've brought on now partners who are helping fund this work too. And it's been a real honor to be able to weave in the Common Ground Project as an entity who can help kind of spearhead and be a part of this work. But with that, we have agencies, we have landowners, we have working groups, like we have quite a few people who are part of the Upper Yellowstone Watershed Group that we can work on together. And there's other conservation groups as well. So it's a real treat to be able to think about this as being a very diverse and inclusive partnership. And ultimately what we're trying to do is build a culture of trust. And so for us, it's about collaborative leadership, and that first and foremost is about listening and learning. It's about valuing the relationships, and we all know there's quite a dynamic human community here in Park County, and not all of us see the world from the same perspective. So it's worth really focusing on how to build community and value relationships. From there, learning how to promote community engagement, and then trying to be creative with how can we advance public-private partnerships and work within the agencies in ways that are helping each other. And as a character trait for a collaborative leadership, I think a lot of it has to do with applying diverse skill sets. So that's something we strive for. And so the shared vision for the future of Highway 89, what we've learned about from so many people, both within this particular county, as well as neighboring states and other places, even further north of here up in Alberta, is that there's a lot of potential that we have to resolve this issue of wildlife vehicle conflict. Here's an example of a bridge wildlife overpass in Nevada. Here's an example of something in Wyoming, another wildlife overpass in Wyoming. This is a large culvert in Colorado. A lot of deer like to use culverts. And here's a beautiful picture of a place up near Banff in Alberta. And not too far away actually is right here in the state of Montana. This is up on Highway 93 as you head toward Glacier. This is called Animals Bridge. So these are just a few examples of the tools that we can use, the mitigation tools, and as what one would call wildlife accommodations. But there's a whole assortment of things that we can think of, from bridges to culverts to this. As you can see, even here in this picture, this fencing is called diversion fencing that helps wildlife get to these places so they can cross the highway safely. But there's things like signage, educational programming that we can have within our public schools, and ways that we can engage the community too through education, primarily with all the folks who love to travel here and visit here. So for many of us in the partnership, we thought of this as a way, how can Paradise Valley be an incubator for some of this great work? And I'll end with this slide here and say, from a high level perspective, you all might recognize where this might be in the Valley. I had a really neat opportunity to listen to Paul Hawkins at a small gathering here in Tom Minor Basin this last summer. And if you don't know who Paul Hawkins is, I would highly recommend looking him up. Author, entrepreneur, environmental activist, big thinker for sure. And one of the things he said was, an ecosystem heals by connecting more of the system to itself. And he was talking about ecosystems, but he had this kind of glimmer in his eye with regard to social and human systems too. And the more we can connect to each other, ultimately, the more we can explore the things that we have in common, the more we can work together, the more we can collaborate, the more we can align around shared interests, and of course, the more we can address shared problems. And when it comes to the highway work on 89, I think that's what we ultimately are moving into, is trying to connect this landscape to itself. Nobody wants to think too critically of a highway, but truth is that it fractures the landscape right down the middle of the valley. So the vision would be that we have all of these mitigation strategies and educational programs and more engagement from the community and others outside of this community in a way that connects the landscape to itself and to one another. So I would just end by inviting anybody in this conversation, and of course anybody else in this community, to participate in this work, to help inform and guide it, and of course to see the fruits of our labors in the end. And please feel free to reach out to me, reach out to Max, Michelle, and yeah, just real quick tip of the hat to Max and folks over at PCEC. This has been an unbelievable journey, and just a little, literally just less than a year, and we certainly have quite a handful of years to go in our work, but it's been an honor and a privilege, and I look forward to more to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniel.
Awesome. So our Robin and Carrie in our office have said that they want to share a little message with us. So let's toss it over to them. You guys, you ready? Whoops.
Here we go. Okay. Where are we? Can you see us and hear us? Because we're having, okay, perfect. Well, I'm gonna turn it over to Robin and let her show you what we're doing, how we're doing here.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so we are up to $3,438. We had
Wow.
15 separate donors, and you guys had me on my feet. So thank you. Keep it coming. I am totally confident we can get our matching goal of 10 grand.
That's
so
awesome.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Robin, Carrie, Wendy. Thank you, Daniel, for your excellent presentation. Brian Wells and Eric Peterson and I had the great privilege of driving up to Banff for our film on Paradise Valley, and saw those wildlife bridges in the Alberta around Banff, and they are to be envied. They are beautiful. So with that, I am going to introduce our last speaker. After our speakers conclude, we still have some fun programming, including a couple of awards. But I'm going to kick it off to our final speaker here, who is our City Commissioner, Melissa Newts. So Melissa serves not only as a city commissioner, but on the Livingston Planning Board. So she's, as we talk about growth, she has a key role to play there, and she's incredibly knowledgeable. Just want to share that. I got to know Melissa through our work on the Mine campaign. Melissa started showing up to meetings to speak about the impacts that mining in our community could have on other communities. I still remember when the mining executive at Crevice Mining Group, Michael Werner, was talking about, oh, you guys don't have to worry. We're not going to process that ore here. We're going to ship it someplace else to process and treat the ore. And Melissa said, wait a minute, I've lived in someplace else, Montana. I just moved here from there. And Melissa kind of brings that spirit of thinking about the impact she has here on everyone and everything else. She's always looking not only on how things impact her personal life, but how they impact others. Melissa also spends her days parenting 2 young daughters and working as a climate advocate with Moms Clean Air Force. She is a fierce advocate and a person you always want to have on your team. I can guarantee that. Melissa's husband, Mitch, serves as the director of the Park County and Livingston Library. Together, they make a very witty family, and I would dare you to challenge them to a game of trivia. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Melissa. Melissa was on a city commission meeting until 10:30 last night. There's a planning board meeting that will likely go to 10:30 tonight. I cannot tell you the hours and hours of her time that she dedicates in advocacy for our community. It's a lot of tireless hard work, but it really makes a big difference. And we're really grateful. And we're especially grateful that you were able to join us and make time for us tonight. So with that, take it away, Melissa.
First, I want to just thank all the previous speakers and recognize all this important work and exciting work that's happening in our community. And Michelle, thank you for that really nice introduction. Today, I'm going to share some more of that story that Michelle was talking about. It's some of my motivation for getting involved with PCEC and local government. So we moved to Livingston after living in Anaconda, Montana for a handful of years. Before the turn of the century, smelting in Butte, that's the process of extracting the metal from the ore, it was making the air so foul in Butte that streetlights were turning on during the daytime and people's dogs were dropping dead in the street. Those facts combined with water and lumber scarcity, 2 things needed for smelting, caused the Copper Kings to recognize the need to move some of their operations out of Butte to somewhere else. Marcus Daly conceived the company town of Anaconda. The Old Works smelter in Anaconda pumped about 20 tons of arsenic out of its stacks every day. Livestock started dying, and farmers and ranchers sued the company. So the response from the company was to build a 585-foot tall stack. It's still proudly on display, rising taller than the Washington Monument. It sent fumes higher up into the air, dispersing heavy metals like arsenic, lead, copper, and cadmium further away from where people lived. Today, Anaconda is nestled within the largest federal Superfund site in our country. I think it's about 300 square miles. The land will hold these smelting memories long after the stack crumbles. Memories are embedded in yards, attics, public parks, and sandboxes, streams meandering along trails, permeating wetlands, converted to settling ponds, and lacing mountainsides with terrain best suited to elk and pronghorn. So fresh to Livingston, I thought, finally, I can just set down my worry and I can relax, you know, in my role as a mom. And I don't remember exactly where I learned about the Crevice Mining Group's public meeting on their plan to mine gold near Yellowstone. But with my kids in tow, I went to the Yellowstone Pioneer Lodge to learn more about it. A lively, friendly, put together woman greeted me and insisted that I sign up for a cash gift card drawing. They were paying people to come and listen to their talk. Uninterested, I declined and I found some empty seats. Mining executive, Meinl Warner, was flashing black and white old-timey photos of hard rock miners on the screen, reminiscent of the turn of the century mining in Butte, Montana. And maybe he thought that the familiarity would be comforting, but instead of comfort, my amygdala was just screaming, danger, danger, danger. And my heart was pounding and every muscle tightened in my body. I was sitting there thinking some kind of modern day Copper King is standing right in front of me. With my toddler on my lap, who'd just gotten a blood test earlier that year, confirming lead exposure, a memory of the land had run through the veins of my child, I asked where he would smelt. He named a few places, not Livingston, maybe somewhere else in Montana, maybe a different continent, he wasn't sure, but he reassured me it wouldn't be here. It would be somewhere else. I don't quite remember what I said to him after that. Something including how we just moved here from somewhere else in Montana. As we left, the lively woman insisted again I sign up for the gift card drawing. The only advocacy group I saw at that meeting was Pcec. It was Erica Lighthizer, quietly listening, patiently taking notes, tucking them in her backpack, sitting somewhere near the back. My experiences have taught me that local electeds and small communities make decisions that can impact entire regions for lifetimes, and in some cases, maybe even geologic time. So I think we should consider the words from Dr. Doyle. All this land we're on is important for so many reasons. Whether you're joining this Zoom meeting from the side of a mountain, in the valley, near the bank of a river, or from an apartment building north of the tracks. Whether our ancestors have been here for 100 generations or 6, this land is still sacred and worthy of our care. My work as a city commissioner is not glamorous, and it's important. All our descendants will live with the consequences of the memories that become part of this land during our time, even in little old Livingston. And I want to remember that democracy extends beyond Election Day and invite each of us to challenge ourselves to deepen our engagement with our community. Attend commission and board meetings, run for office, support the work of one of tonight's speakers, donate money as often as you can to groups you trust. A great option to start deepening your engagement would be to attend the growth policy public hearing happening later tonight, right after this event. Hint, hint, real subtle hint that we should all go. And I want to thank PCEC, especially for treating all of the places in Park County as worthy of your time, even when it's not glamorous, and especially when it's not glamorous. And I want to tell you that I entered the drawing and won $50 from the Crevice Mining Group. And then, although it's probably not how they wanted their money spent, I went home and donated it all to PCEC. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melissa. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all of your work, for your beautiful presentation and inspiring words. I don't know about you guys, but I got a little bit nervous when Melissa said something about going to the Pioneer Lodge for a meeting. I was like, don't go. I have one other ad lib on Melissa. I want to share that she continues to work for her friends and community members in Anaconda as they on that Superfund remediation work. She got to know EPA Administrator Andrew Wheeler before Scott Pruitt got booted. And then on one trip to DC, I could share that Melissa was the first climate advocate to have a one-on-one meeting with Andrew Wheeler, and she went in there with her family and didn't hold on to anything. Told them exactly what the community of Anaconda thought about the work there, and it was incredibly inspiring and really important. And so thank you for your work advocating for all of our communities and on the City Commission. I am going to drop the Zoom link to that growth planning meeting into the chat as soon as I get it. All right, so now we're moving on to our awards ceremony. I wanted to say again, before we move on to that we're still working on our match. I hope that everybody is as excited about those bugs as my 9-year-old is. It looks like we're doing well. We're about halfway there. Thank you, Robin, for that beautiful visual. We were really nervous about live fundraising and seeing how this would go. And I'm telling you, I'm really excited and I think it's really fun. So I'm just gonna do a quick shout out to Joe Dorn, Charlotte Caldwell, and Jeffrey Schutz for encouraging us to do this. So with that, keep making those donations, but I'm gonna have the opportunity to pass the stage to our local hero and celebrity, Mr. Colin Davis. Many of you know Colin as the co-owner of Chico Hot Springs, alongside PCEC board member extraordinaire Sebring Davis. And as you all know, Colin played a significant role in leading our effort to stop the proposed gold mines in our backyard. He continues to serve as a leader for conservation and for our community. And I cannot tell you, I have countless stories of Colin's heroism in our work. He dropped everything. I did one quick story to drive all the way to Billings because he heard Governor Bullock was going to be there for a baseball game. I mean, there are countless stories of Colin dropping everything for this community, for this place. You may have seen him testifying in Washington, D.C. on behalf of our community. We're grateful for his work, and I'm excited to pass it over him to take over our awards presentations for the evening. Take it away, Colin.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
You're great.
Excellent. I just want to say, Melissa, that was amazing. Just re-inspired. Thank you. I think I needed that. But anyway, I want to say I'm a huge fan of PCEC. I think you know that. And it was a privilege to work shoulder to shoulder in this community with them. And they just haven't stopped. So tonight, I'm really honored to be part of this celebration. This is really 30-year celebration of PCEC. And these awards that I'm going to share with you are in conjunction with that. The first part of the celebration, there's 2 awards. The first tonight is the Janet Shirey Spirit Award. And that award is named for Janet Shirey, and it recognizes commitment and it recognizes spirit, without question. Janet, for those of you that didn't know her, exuded not just a spirit, but a really outspoken spirit, regardless of what the community issue was. She ultimately was very protective of this valley and very loyal to PCEC. To me, spirit it's the embodiment of belief, enthusiasm, and energy. And today, the Janet Shirey Award is going to someone that embodies all of that and possibly even more in a different fashion. Today, that honor is going to go to Jean DeHart. There she is, perfect. For those of you that don't know her, she moved here in 1995 with her daughter. and began her own business. It was an alteration business. And she grew that business to what was known as Needlepoint in 2001. Fast forward 9 years later, and COVID hits this community, and it hit it really hard, as you know. She wondered, what can I do? You know, she'd heard that there were some needs, but she didn't wait for someone to ask her. She called the hospital and found out the need initially was for masks and for PPE. So the woman designed she started to work on the design of a mask, and she gathered up 100 sewers. And in 3 weeks, she had put together 1,200 masks available at her house. Her house became headquarters central, and it didn't stop there. I mean, after 3 weeks and 1,200 masks, it was just beginning. Jean connected with Robin at PCEC, and the Boomerang Bag Sewing Squad joined forces, where they moved on to manufacture more PPE. They manufactured surgical scrubs, waterproof scrubs, protective gowns, hats, booties. And I think today, the number of masks alone has reached 7,000 masks. So what she did is she did this. She made this happen. She didn't ask. When you talk about spirit, it's a spirit of self. That's another amazing member of this community that just decided something needed to be done. Nobody needed to beg her to do it. And it was her spirit that drove her and made that happen. And she cares more than most. That became obvious through her actions, and she's still at it. Anyway, I'm really humbled to be the one to give the Janet Shirey Award to you, Jean DeHart. Amazing stuff. We need a community of you. That's for sure.
Thank you. I'm humbled as well.
Really, really impressive. Thank you from all of us. Like I said, I feel lucky I'm the one that gets to first announce that. So if I have a little more time, I have one more award that I would like to give. It's also a fantastic opportunity to shed another spotlight on another member of our community that needs really the same recognition. This award is the first time we've ever given this. It's the PCEC Lifetime Achievement Award, and it's given in conjunction with celebrating PCEC's 30 years. Think about that. That's 30 years of safeguarding our water. When I say our, I mean this community, this valley, this county, but safeguarding our water, our lands, our wildlife, our families, and honestly, our blessed way of life. I mean, I think every day we all stop and can just ruminate on how lucky we are to live in this place, in this time. And PCEC has been walking that fence for a long time. 30 years is a long time to walk that fence with the calm and the dignity and the grace and the integrity that they have as an organization. And if I had a fat glass of wine, I'd raise it right now to you guys. It's just, thank you so much. But so step by step and hand in hand, there's one individual that's been walking that fence the entire way. And that invented with PCEC, that individual's beautiful partner is Tom Murphy. If you don't know Tom, you need to get to know Tom. And if you don't know Tom, you're missing out. A little quick background. Tom was born and raised in South Dakota on a ranch. He moved here in the early 70s, I believe, and he was lured by Yellowstone National Park. After arriving, photography became Tom's medium. It was his way to timestamp. It was his way to remember what he saw, his way to capture those memories, a way to document those memories, and above all, I really think a way to share those.
Environmental Council going on giving their awards.
Also a way to share those memories.
Do you want?
I'm sorry, somebody else was logging in. Photography also became his vehicle, a way for him to give back, to share what he loved, but also to give back and preserve all of that he loves. He's given endless access of his work to so many environmental groups, and especially PCEC, again, as his way of giving back. Tom knows all 3,400 square miles of Yellowstone like you know your backyard, because he made it his own backyard. He's hiked it all, touched it all. He skied across it twice, once by himself, and his only company, as I understand it, was his famous blue tarp. But he's photographed from Yellowstone to Africa. He's photographed from Antarctica to the Arctic. He's been published in Life, in Time, in Newsweek, Esquire, Architectural Digest, Nat Geo Adventure, and Audubon, just to name a few. He's also published a number of books, two standouts. One is A Season in Yellowstone, which is a series, and the second, Silence and Solitude, which won Tom the Montana Book Award, as well as became a documentary by Montana PBS, and Tom was given an Emmy nod, which again is just incredibly impressive, as impressive as Tom is. Tom is also a member of the Montana Search and Rescue, and Tom is a founding member of what was known as Crazy Paradise. He helped found that in 1987, and that morphed a few years later in 1990 into PCEC. Tom is still on the board. So he's been on the board every year, and every year he'll take the staff into Yellowstone Park for much needed R&R, but he'll take them to secret backcountry places that they wouldn't get a chance to see before. But his commitment to PCEC in this community is amazing. Tom is dedicated to the preservation of everything wild and beautiful that he has seen, touched, and photographed. And this is really especially true of Yellowstone and the Gallatins, and of course, the Absaroka Beartooth Wilderness area. You know, personally, I've crossed paths with Tom since I moved here, and I feel like I know him, but reading his bio in depth, and I'm only giving you a snapshot of it, I really feel like this Lifetime Achievement Award should be 2 lifetimes achievement award. He's lived 2 lifetimes in one and accomplished more than most of us dream about. It's just really impressive to be part of this, Tom. You're amazing, you're tireless, and this community is both lucky and proud to have you walk inside it. So on behalf of PCEC, this community, and celebrating 30 years, it's an honor to present to you, which you're gonna have to mask up and come get, the Lifetime Achievement Award. Can everybody see that? All right.
Yeah.
I have one last thing I want to say and share, which is one of my favorite things to do, is tell you once again how fortunate we are to have PCEC in this community. And just in listening to tonight, all the tendrils and all the places they're trying to make a difference and trying to protect us on every front. And that comes back to the only way that can be done is to have people doing it full time. And you know who they are. You've seen their faces, you've listened to them tonight. And it won't happen. A lot of us don't have the time, the resources, the energy, above all the time to make those things happen, but to make them happen with the sincerity and the care and the follow through that's happening on our behalf. These people are working for us just on an impossible level. And we should all be so thankful. The only way we can do that is to support them financially. And I sat here and I thought about Tom in 30 years, and I thought Tom hasn't been paid for 30 years, right? So if every one of us kicked in $13 or $14 a year, if 100 of us did that for Tom for 30 years, $300, $400 a piece, we'd be at like $40,000, and the match would kick in 10, and we'd be right at our goal. But I mean, think of poor Tom, who hasn't been paid for 30 years. I mean, at least we can do is honor him that way, right? And Tom can donate it to PCEC, and we can move on. But if that's too much, you cannot not support this organization. I know I'm getting windy and I'll stop, but I love PCEC. I love what they do for this community, and we can't do enough for them. So we need them. That's the bottom line. This day and age, with what's coming our way, we need PCEC. So thank you for letting me be part of this. And Tom, congratulations. Jean, congratulations. Community needs you both.
And Tom, I see you're off of mute. If you wanted to say a few words, you're certainly welcome. If not, that's totally fine as well.
I don't know if I can.
Oh.
It's an honor to be associated with a group that wants to give back. I don't believe you're a good citizen unless you give back. So that's what I try to do, and I'm pleased that there's now 500 people, starting from 6 30-some years ago. So thank you, Colin, too, for that. Most of that true, I think.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Let's see, where are we?
I'm just going to quickly say thank you to Tom. His leadership has meant so much to me. You know, he's a board member that always just says, you're doing it, keep doing it. And then forces us to take the time to spend a week together in the backcountry learning about this place with our children and our families. Thank you, Tom. We love you. Thank you. Thank you, Tom.
Yay. Well, that is a really
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going on another hike next summer, I think.
Wow, that's a hard act to follow with business items. Jonathan, you ready to move to the next slide? Okay, I am going to, oh, I know the Robin and Carrie have said that you guys are loading up our donation site so great that if you have any trouble donating, just say what you'll pledge and you can donate later. That's a really good problem for us to have. So thank you very much. Let's see, what I also want to do is say that I have to run through our financials as part of the bylaws. Boy, oh boy, if you look at the top chart on this slide, you can see that PCEC has been on an amazing journey. Nearly 6 years ago, in January of 2015, Michelle was hired as the new executive director at 20 hours a week with a budget of $25,000 for that year. Over the ensuing years, Michelle grew a team of the staff and the business in a phenomenal way, along with the help of expert guidance from our treasurer, Lucinda Reinhold, and gained credibility and support such that this year's budget was an incredible 1,635% increase over that first year that Michelle arrived. And our budget for next year is a 28% increase over this year, which is remarkable given the pandemic and uncertain economy, but represents the ambitious work we intend to tackle next year, which you'll hear about from Michelle in just a few moments. As you can see, we rely heavily on our individual donors, which is where you all come in. For the fundraising we're doing right now, I mentioned that we have generous donors who are matching the first $10,000 that is raised in the next 24 hours. And one of those donors would like their match to be in honor of Tom Murphy for the purpose of building PCEC's reserve funds. A total of $5,000 will be designated for this. So you are welcome to make donations in Tom's honor to build our reserve. And if you already made your donation and you want to now, say that it's to Tom, by all means, either say it in the chat or just send us an email afterwards. Tom was a PCEC founder, as you heard, has served on the board for 30 years, and building this reserve ensures PCEC's work and Tom's legacy for the next 30 years. Now let's see how we're doing on our fundraising and head back to Robin and Carrie. Thank you.
Wow, you guys are amazing. We are so close. We just hit $9,300. Thank you for the generous bulk donation there at the end that bumped us up. So we're about $600 from reaching our goal for the match.
Wow, thank you so much, Robin.
Yeah, and I thank you so much. I just want to say that, so we have a 10,000 match tonight, and then it's an additional $5,000 in Tom's honor that will continue to build that reserve, so that the reserve in Tom's honor, the donating to that fund will continue to the end of the year and beyond potentially. So with that, I've got about 10 minutes to kind of close this out so we can all jump to the growth policy hearing. And I want to talk a bit about our accomplishments and then what you can look forward to, we can all look forward to in 2021. So we included in this our accomplishments over the last couple of years. So we don't want to stop celebrating the tremendous amount of work that we all put in to help pass the Yellowstone Gateway Protection Act just a little over a year ago that protected 30,000 acres of public lands in the Paradise Valley and on the border of Yellowstone National Park. Many of you know that we won a district court decision to prevent exploratory drilling in Emigrant Gulch. And this year, along with our help or with our guidance from our Earth Justice attorney and former PCEC board alum, Jenny Harbine, we argued that case before the Montana Supreme Court to defend our lower court ruling. That was a really inspiring and excellent oral argument. We'll look forward to that in 2021. Thanks to PCEC members that show up to this meetings, we prevented oil and gas leasing on BLM land on the edges of Livingston and along the Beartooth Front. With our friends, immigrant neighbors, which is how I got to know Wendy, we staved off development of an asphalt plant and gravel pit in Emigrant. As you've heard today, our amazing Boomerang Bag volunteers graciously pivoted from sewing upcycled cloth shopping bags and went to work to help sew more than 5,500 masks or 7,000 masks I heard tonight and PPE for our community with over 100 volunteers. We can't wait till we're done with the pandemic and back to sewing reusable cloth bags. We've partnered with our friends at Protecting Paradise to prevent a tire dump in Paradise Valley. And after years of relationship building, we launched this year the Crazy Mountain Access Project in collaboration with landowners, outdoors people, and others to consolidate checkerboard lands, resolve public land access conflicts, and improve conservation. As you heard tonight, also in 2020, we launched our wildlife vehicle conflict work in collaboration with Daniel Anderson. What a great idea that has got up off the ground and running. Additionally, PCEC members have played a significant role in getting the Park County growth policy approved with community input and put into action. And now we're doing the same thing with the city of Livingston, including bringing additional funding, state funding for that process and to support our downtown and a downtown master plan. So those are just some of our accomplishments. I'm going to share our work in 2021. Megan Eubank helped us create this beautiful visual that lays out our work. And you can see kind of at the heart of the work is community planning. And a lot of things kind of build from there. So in 2021, we will continue to put a significant amount of time and energy into our community planning work. We want to finish the Livingston growth policy and start to work on a downtown master plan and a parks and trails master plan. We want to work with the county to help pass robust countywide zoning that prioritizes open lands, working ranches, protects our riparian corridors, and prevents sprawl. Our second biggest program area is our public lands, which we also call our wild backyard. We're going to continue to work in the Crazy Mountains to consolidate checkerboard lands, advocate for expanded tribal access and wilderness protections. Also in our public lands work, we are advocating for maximum wilderness acreage and wilderness protections for the Custer-Gallatin Forest Management Plan and for the forest as a whole. So you can look forward to more of that work in 2021. Of course, we'll continue to work in the watershed, partnering with landowners, producers, and recreationists to safeguard the river and its ecosystem. Contact Max for any questions about the watershed or how to get involved. We'll continue the very exciting wildlife work that you heard about tonight with Daniel Anderson, and the work of the, oh, I can't remember the name, the Safe Passage Partnership. We're moving even closer to that very exciting goal of having a wildlife land bridge here in Paradise Valley. And then we'll continue our work with local partners on grizzly bear coexistence. We'll continue our work in our trails. PCEC now leads the Park County Active Transportation Coalition. We have a wonderful contractor that came on this year, Sarah Stans, who's a Livingston local. Can reach out to her with questions about that. And then we're also really excited to help identify funds and support the Rails to Trails bicycle and pedestrian path in the Paradise Valley. So those are just a few of the focus areas. If you have questions about planning, don't hesitate to reach out to me. We also, many of you know, our local land use expert, Jen Magic, and then our communications director, Jonathan Hettinger, does a ton of work in planning. Erica Lighthizer is your go-to gal on public lands and the Crazy Mountains. Yeah, so with that, what do I need to do? I need to pass it back to Wendy.
Yep. So I want to close the evening by thanking everyone again, all of the folks that are watching at home, volunteering year-round, and donating to help ensure that we can do this work, to our dedicated board and former board members, to the speakers for joining us tonight, and for working in partnership with our team, and for the wonderful team of staff and contractors at PCEC. We couldn't do this work without all of you. Don't forget about donating in the next 24 hours. And if you're interested in one of the lovely membership gifts, we're happy, of course, to give those to you. Please reach out to any of our speakers, our staff, and our board with your ideas and questions. This is all about all of us and community together, and we love to hear your voices. And now it's time to sign off and jump over to the Livingston Planning Board meeting. What fun! And thank you again, everyone. It's been so wonderful to see all of your faces here and to participate all together. And we couldn't be more grateful.
Thank you, Wendy. Before we jump, Jonathan, dump the Zoom link in the chat for anybody that wants to grab that.
That's the Zoom link for the growth policy meeting, right?
Yep. And do we have a final update from the office before we sign off?
So many buttons to push, I tell you. So we're right at 9,500. That's calculating the pledges that have come in and the donations that have actually processed. So amazing, everyone. I feel extremely blessed to be a part of this organization.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Rob.
you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Great job, everyone. That was terrific.
All right, be safe. Mwah, mwah, mwah. I love y'all.
Thank you.
Okay.